He's the owner of Tennis Incorporated. He's on the Wilson advisory staff. He's a cardio tennis certified instructor. He is a creator of the Wilson Challenge of 2015 to present. He was voted Best Self-Atlanta Tennis Instructor of the Year in 2016. And I'd just like to add that I see Rob at a lot of pro-ams. He's very well respected in the industry, and he does a great job of promoting the sport of tennis. And we're glad that you're on, Rob. Welcome to the group.
Glad to be here. I want to thank everybody from the GPTA and Jeff and Lynn and Mark and Turhan, and it's just like Mark or Jeff said, it's an honor to be with all you guys.
Well, you seem to have you have a positive message to your students during these times, and we talked yesterday a little bit about this. How do you equate going through these times that we are in and playing a tennis match as it kind of pertains to mental toughness?
Well, I had a group of ladies, they sent me a text. We have a group text, and they said they missed my positivity. And so I sent them a text back, and I told them, I said, you know, this whole situation we're dealing with, to me, is kind of like a tennis match that you're losing, that you feel no matter what you do, it's not working. Through the course of your match, you just feel like you're just going backwards. So I told them, I said, sometimes you can't feel positive during a tough situation, but you can think neutrally. And when you think neutral, you're just trying to hang tough. And that mental toughness thing is being tested. It's a test of faith, and this whole thing is, in some ways, I think it's going to be a positive because we're all going to be tougher and better afterwards.
Oh yeah, you're talking about resilience, and I love what you're saying about being neutral. Yesterday you shared something with me about the news. Do you mind sharing with me? 14 days. I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, as of today, it's 16 days. But
oh, wow.
You know, it's listening to the news. Every time I turned on, I'd get in a worse mood. And I thought, you know what? If there's good news, it will find me. And so I just made a policy that, you know, when I'm in the car running errands, I've got rock music. I'm in a good mood, and I just choose not to listen to it. And you can't escape it totally because you'll hear people talk about it. And my wife and I have had to look at each other a couple times and say, you know, enough is enough. We're not going to talk about this crazy thing anymore.
That is a great positive message there. I admire 16 days. Excuse me for underselling you. Hey, you've been posting some videos on both Facebook and YouTube. Can you tell us about this and maybe the why a little bit? We talked a little bit about the hits that you got on Facebook and YouTube, and so can you expand on that? You've been doing this for a while, so this isn't something you just did, you know, recently.
Yeah, to me, during lessons, we all get, unfortunately, we talk too much, and I'm really aware of brevity, that I want to have the message as short and as effective as possible. However, you might want to expand more on your tip, or I'll hear somebody mention something in a lesson, and so I'll take that as an idea to create a tip and put it on video. That way they can look at it in more depth. So I put it on Facebook, and then I realized a lot of my men don't do social media, so I switched it over to YouTube so people can see it on YouTube as well.
That's a great answer. Have you been able to monetize your online content, or do you?
Well, you know, YouTube is a tricky thing. You need a lot of subscribers and a lot of views, and you know, they do it with their algorithms, with the amount of time that your videos are viewed and so forth. I'm at the early stages. I've only been doing it about 9 months on YouTube, but I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it to give more information for my clients, and sometimes I've highlighted some kids and some adults on my videos, which people like. And to me, it's that little bit extra value that you're giving them something else and some little bit more education as far as they can you know, view their tennis games and try some different things based on what they see in the video. I've had people say, hey, I like that tip, can I work on that with you? And so you might get some private lessons from it, but to me it's just adding value to what we do.
Yeah, I need to take a second here to kind of give a shout out to both of these speakers. You can hear both of them saying giving back and adding value, and I know both in person. wherever else it's there. Sorry, that's my little rant here. So talk to us about the tactical side and how you have used your study of baseball and coaching to teach your tennis students. We had an interesting discussion yesterday on that. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I've got my brother's a college baseball coach, and I've got a couple close friends that are baseball coaches, and I love talking to any coach in any sport to find out how they deal with their athletes and just their overall improvement, and a lot of it's the mental side. But one of my brother's friends is a baseball coach. We were talking about what we know, and he basically put his fingers about 2 inches apart. He said, "This is what I know about baseball." He said, "At the same time, it's a big baseball world, and that what we know is what we know, but we should always keep our eyes open because it's a big world out there. It's a big tennis world." And my philosophy is, I don't want to be a cookie cutter coach. Just like our players, we're trying to stress to our players to always get better. We as coaches and as individuals, we need to always keep striving and stretching ourselves and looking for different ways. And when you go to a seminar, you might hear that one little nugget that's going to transform someone's tennis career. So I think it's really important to get out of just a narrow lane and keep your parameters wide open. And somebody might disagree with something you do, but that's okay. Because I think if you get creative and make some mistakes, you learn from it, and that way it can overall help your clients.
That's a great answer, and it really brings up the point about growing as a tennis pro, growing as an individual. Is there anything that you've been doing throughout this time to kind of grow personally?
Well, I've done more reading. I have not binged on anything on Netflix. I guess I'm trying to stick to a daily schedule. Get up and shower, even if you don't have lessons. Get up and shower, exercise more, read more. I listen to something. I do foam rolling on my legs every morning, and I'm listening to something inspiring. It could be faith-based or athletic or mental toughness. Anything from a Navy SEAL or anybody who's been through any type situation. And you work on yourself. If you can work on yourself, you'll get better, and then you will help other people.
That's a great answer, and I think it's really one of the big keys to all of us is the theme here is positive messaging. So what are we feeling? I'm saying this to myself. What are we filling our brains and our minds with now? We're always listening to the news, and obviously we've got to stay informed. But what you just said is you're filling your mind, your brain with, it's a faith-based things, podcasts that are going to build you up, and I think that's just so important to all of us. And you mentioned something to it, just to re-emphasize your point. If you are taking care of yourself, and if you're producing positive messages within yourself, that's going to reflect into your students. And certainly the reverse can be true too. If we get out of this and we're all negative about it, it's going to be very, very difficult. And I also want to expand on a point that you made about personal growth or about learning more. I couldn't agree more. Both you and I are on the same page there as far as personal growth and learning more. And there are so many workshops, and all of you are, in my view, are high achievers here because you're here to learn. I shared with Rob something I saw over the weekend, and it's actually on my tagline now, and it's ABC NBC. This is, I believe it's Dan Buchanan who founded ESPN, okay? And you think we know what we're thinking. ABC NBC stands for, but these are the 6 words that define him, okay? And that is always be curious and never be complacent. What you're saying is always be curious as well, always be learning. And as I shared with Rob yesterday, I'm quite a bit older than he is, and I'm probably older than any of you here. So, but we're always learning. So anyway, I got a little bit off topic there, but Rob, thank you so much for bringing up the points of always being learning and to be curious. Let me go back to tennis being situational. We had a good discussion yesterday about that. Can you expand on tennis being situational?
Well, to me, it's some days you have a good forehand, some days you don't have a good forehand. So what are you going to do on the day you don't have a good forehand? And we as teachers, if you were naming, like you and I were talking about, if you're naming all the great forehands in tennis, Steffi, Serena, Roger, Pete, and the list goes on and on, but they all look different. And the situation is some days you're playing well and things are easy, and then we have a lot of those days that they're not, and so you have to make adjustments with that. So that's what I mean by it's situational, and that not every person's going to have the same skill set to begin with. So you have to, it's like you're dealing with clay, you're molding clay, and you're doing what you can, based on the player's athletic ability, and sometimes they're just having bad days, so you just have to deal with it. And the situation we're in, I know to me it's kind of like a daily thing. When I wake up and I roll out of bed, I go, oh man, that virus thing's still here. So it's kind of like what we talked about, that like an addict would talk about, one day at a time. So I also remember Andre Agassi saying that when he was on his comeback, he looked at one thing to do, and that's what he was going to do that day, and just focus on one thing. And I really believe that this thing's going to end sooner than later, and we're going to look back and go, wow, that was a crazy thing we had the spring of 2020. But who knows when it's going to happen. But the good news is we're getting closer and closer to the end. So I try to look at it through a sports perspective, and that helps me personally to look at from the lens of competing.
Yeah, it's a great way to state it. Certainly at one point at a time. I think most of us teach that and trying to take it one day at a time, which is not easy when we're looking ahead to the future there. But that was a really good explanation there. Is there any favorite podcast or video or anything that you're listening to or that you're watching that whether it's tennis or it's related to positive messaging, anything that strikes you right now?
Well, there's an awesome website called What Drives Winning. Becky Burley, the soccer coach at University of Florida, started with Brett Ledbetter, and you can spend hours on YouTube learning so many different things from so many different coaches. I just read a book recently from Trevor Moawad called It Takes What It Takes, and I cannot wait to get back into the match play in the season, because so much of the stuff that happens on the court is the mental side. And in Trevor's research, he mentioned that we all have these thoughts in our head, and it's okay to have negative thoughts in your head, but anything you say out loud is 10 times more powerful than if you just think it. And then research has shown that whatever you say negative is 40 to 70 times greater than anything that you think. So you got to be careful of what you say. And basically in their research, they've realized that if you could just get college athletes to stop saying stupid stuff. You can't always be positive, but if you stop them from saying stupid stuff, they won't manifest that. So I've really tried to watch what I say, that, oh, the stupid virus, and, things are tough and whatever. Suck it up, buttercup. Just don't say anything stupid, and just try to hang tough at the same time.
Yeah, so you're really talking about building positive mindsets and attitudes there, and you're really opening up another side of almost sports psychology there, but that's obviously so important. And I know Carol Zweck talks about the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. That I'm getting back again to a learning that we need to have a growth mindset, but really what you're talking about is developing a positive attitude and watching the self-talk. I think many times we talk to ourselves more negatively than we would talk to a friend. And you're right, it does start with ourselves and watching the language that we use, and it really is an indication of where our brains and our minds are. If we're always negative, or if we're really getting overly involved in this pandemic, and we have to, because we have to stay healthy and stay safe. But at the same time, I'm hearing you say a lot of things about you replacing those thoughts and some of those words by getting into a routine and doing other things, getting back, adding value, and trying to stay as positive as you can, which is not easy during these times, yet we have to be realistic. So Rob, really some great information that you gave us. I really appreciate the time that you have spent with us, and I look forward to speaking with you again. And what drives winning? I'm hoping that at the end here we can we'll be able to hand out some of these recommendations that both Jeff and Rob had, but for me, I'm going to be Googling that, what drives winning, and I'll be making a little study of that. I want to make it, we're right in the middle here of trying to make some announcements, again, to talk about how you will receive credit for USPTA. We just need to make sure that we get your Gpta number. And we have the third speaker, I hope, that's on, and this is a topic that